In a dark corner of the alien city of Zirion, the buildings were tall, gray, and cold. Life here was not kind. Among these stone towers lived a quiet girl. She had no name. People called her only one thing: the Silent. She lived with her stepfather, Corin, a tall, rough alien with sharp teeth and angry eyes. He never smiled. He never cared. Every day he looked at the girl and said the same words: "You're broken. You can't even speak. Even the humans are smarter than you." The girl never replied. She just looked at the floor. Her big, bright eyes were always calm, but deep inside they were hiding something. No one knew her secret. No one cared? Corin hated her silence. He believed she was cursed. In Zirion, being mute was considered a shame. People thought silence meant weakness or madness. One rainy night, Corin made a choice. He walked into the house, threw a small bag on the floor, and looked at her with a cold grin. "Pack your things," he said. "You're leaving." She did not ask where. She simply stood up and walked slowly to her room. Her steps made no sound. Her hands touched nothing. Her face showed no fear, but her heart beat faster than ever. The next morning, a large spaceship landed outside their home. It was shaped like a smooth silver bird. A human stepped out. His name was Dr. Rian Haleh. He wore a long brown coat and glasses. His eyes were soft. He was not like the others. Corin gave him a fake smile and handed over the girl like she was a broken machine. "She's mute," Corin said. "Completely useless. You can have her for your human tests." Rian didn't answer. He looked at the girl, then looked back at Corin. His eyes narrowed, but he said nothing. The girl followed Rian into the ship. She didn't look back. Inside the spaceship, everything was clean, white, and silent. There were soft lights on the ceiling and smooth walls that hummed gently. Rian showed her a small room with a bed, a table, and a screen. He spoke gently. "You don't have to speak. You can rest here. You are safe." The girl nodded slowly. She sat on the bed. Rian left her alone. For 3 days she did not speak. She watched him from far. When he worked, she watched. When he ate, she stayed still. When he slept, she sat in silence, but every now and then, strange things happened. Machines would stop working when she was near. Lights would flicker. Screens would show strange patterns. Rian noticed, but he said nothing. He only watched her, more carefully every day. One night, Rian fell asleep in his chair. The ship was quiet. Stars moved outside the window. The girl stood up from her bed and walked slowly to him. She looked at him for a long time. Her eyes glowed faintly, just for a moment, then she spoke, very softly. "You were there before." The words were quiet, almost like wind, but clear, real. Then she turned her head and looked straight into the security camera in the corner. Her eyes locked onto it, as if she knew it was watching. The camera flickered. The screen turned black. The next morning, Rian woke up with no memory of the night. He checked the cameras, only static. He turned to the girl. She sat quietly, just like before. Eyes calm, mouth closed. Silent again, but something had changed. Rian stared at her for a long time. She stared back. Asterisk. Dr. Rian Haleh sat in the quiet ship, staring at his monitor. The security footage from last night was gone. Just static. It was strange. Very strange. He looked over at the girl. She sat on her bed, still, calm, and silent, just like always. But something had changed. Rian could feel it. The air around her felt heavier now, almost like she was waiting for something. He pulled up the system logs. The camera went black at exactly 2:13 a.m. No error code, no explanation. "Did you say something?" he whispered to himself. The girl didn't look at him, but he thought just for a second her eyes flicked toward him, back on the planet Zarian. Corin walked through a dark alley, smiling to himself. He wasn't just a cruel stepfather. He was a traitor, a liar, a survivor. He met with a tall human officer behind a metal wall. The officer wore dark armor and had a silver emblem on his shoulder. "You did well," the officer said. "We needed her off-world, unnoticed." "She's your problem now," Corin replied. "I don't want her back." The officer tossed him a bag of credits. "She doesn't know who she is." "Not yet," the human said. "But she will." And when she does, the war begins. Corin paused. Something in the officer's voice gave him chills. What is she, really? Corin asked. More than you could handle. Meanwhile, in the ship, Rian continued observing the girl. He tried talking to her every day. Do you understand me? No reply. Are you comfortable? Silence, but every now and then, when he wasn't looking, he felt her eyes on him, watching. Studying, one day he left a pencil on the table and went to get coffee. When he returned, the pencil was standing upright, balanced perfectly on its tip. No strings, no tricks. Just standing, he looked at her, she looked at the pencil, then she blinked, and it fell. That night, he tried something different. He brought a star map into her room and placed it in front of her. Do you recognize anything here? She stared at it for a long time. Then, for the first time, she moved. She pointed to a star. One single point of light in the corner of the map, not a known planet, not marked, not charted. That place? Rian asked. The girl opened her mouth slightly. Her lips moved, barely. Home, she whispered. The word was so soft that Rian almost missed it. But he heard it. He was sure. Your home? That planet? She nodded once. Rian's heart raced. No one had ever heard her speak. Not even the stepfather. The next day, Rian began running scans. He tested her blood, her DNA, her energy levels. The results made no sense. Her cells were different. They were not fully alien, and not fully human. Something in between. Something new. Half of her DNA matched human code, but the other half? It was unknown, not from any registered alien species. How is that possible? He muttered. Who created you? The girl sat nearby, watching him work, silent. Then she raised her hand slowly and pointed to his face. Rian turned to look at her. She stared into his eyes, then touched her own chest and whispered, You were there, where? He asked. She touched the star map again, then she closed her eyes. Suddenly, Rian's monitor flickered and showed images. Not from the ship, not from the system. From her mind, a destroyed planet, burning cities, soldiers in black, children running. A giant machine buried under the earth. A human standing before it. It looked like Rian. That's not possible, he whispered. I've never been to that planet. The girl opened her eyes. You forgot, she said. Later, Rian went to his private logbook. He searched deep files, restricted documents. He found a classified report from 12 years ago. Project Echo, a failed experiment. Goal, create a hybrid of human and alien intelligence. The subject was lost, believed dead. Project Echo. You were the child? He said aloud. The girl did not answer, but in that moment the lights in the ship flickered again. Then, the engines turned off by themselves. The screen on the wall displayed one word. Listen. Rian stood still. The ship was silent. The air around them pulsed with energy. The girl stood now, her hands glowing faintly blue. Her eyes no longer calm, they were bright, powerful. You are not broken, Rian said softly. She turned to him. For the first time she smiled. You heard me? She said. Dr. Rian Hale didn't sleep that night. He sat at his desk, staring at the glowing data floating in the air. The girl's DNA sequence rotated slowly on the screen. Human strands twisted together with something unregistered, something ancient. She's not from any known species, Rian whispered. Half of her doesn't exist in our records. Behind him, the girl stood silently. She didn't speak again that night. But Rian didn't need words. He could feel the energy around her like heat from a hidden sun. Something about her was waking up, and it had nothing to do with language. The next morning, Rian tried something new. He brought her to the ship's observation deck, a glass dome overlooking the stars. He activated the voice assistant. I identify the star, she pointed to. The system responded in a soft tone. Star system uncharted. Not in the current galactic registry. Distance, 93 light years. Rian looked at her. Why do you remember that place? Who are you really? She closed her eyes. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a chair floated gently behind her, without touch. Tools lifted off the table. The lights above flickered once, then brightened. Rian stepped back. You're controlling the ship? She opened her eyes. It listens to me, she said softly, like you did. Rian stared in disbelief. She was no ordinary hybrid. She was connected to machines, not through wires. Through thought, he returned to his lab and accessed restricted Earth archives. He searched Project Echo. The files were locked. Top-tier clearance only, but Rian had once been part of a similar program. He knew the backdoor codes. What he found made his blood freeze. There had been 10 hybrid experiments. All failed, except one. Subject 07, codename Echo, status lost in transport. Presumed dead. Photo attached. It was her. Same eyes, same face, same silence. You were made? Not born, he whispered. Later that day, he brought her an old human artifact, a memory crystal, once used for data storage. It hadn't worked in decades. He placed it on the table. Do you know what this is? She picked it up gently, held it between her fingers. The crystal lit up, glowed white, and played an image, a group of human scientists standing around a metal pod. Inside it, a baby with glowing eyes. One of the scientists turned to the camera. It was a younger Rian. Day 1, the recording said. The child's brain activity is off the charts. But she doesn't cry, she only watches. The recording ended. The girl placed the crystal down. You were there, she said. I don't remember, Rian replied, his voice shaking. They erased it, my memory of the program. She looked at him, eyes filled with something deep, not anger, not fear, but memory. Ancient memory. They hid me, she said, even from you. Suddenly, the ship shook violently. An alarm blared. Warning, external force detected. Hull breach attempt in progress. Rian ran to the control panel. Outside, a small alien craft hovered. It bore the symbol of Zirian's royal security. They found us, he said. The girl stepped forward. He sent them, she said. Corin? Rian asked. She nodded. The small alien ship latched onto theirs. Rian reached for his weapon. But the girl raised her hand. No, let me... She walked calmly to the airlock. Rian followed her, nervous, unsure. The door hissed open. 3 alien guards stood on the other side, weapons raised. Give her back, one barked. She's government property. Rian stepped forward. She's not yours. She's not anyone's. But before they could react, the girl's eyes began to glow. The aliens froze in place. Their weapons turned red-hot and dropped to the floor. Sparks flew from their ship. The lights in the hallway shattered. Then, silence. The aliens were unconscious. Not dead, just shut off. Rian stared at her, wide-eyed. What are you? She turned to him. Not what they wanted, not what they planned. Then softer. But maybe what they need. That night, as the ship drifted quietly through space, Rian sat beside her in the control room. You're not just a girl, he said. You're a key, she nodded. They made me to obey. But I waited for someone to listen. Rian looked at the stars. And now? Now I want to remember everything. She touched the console. A new map opened, routes, planets, signals, all hidden deep in the system. A secret path appeared, the same star she once pointed to. We go there, she said. What will we find? Truth. Rian leaned back. The ship changed direction toward the unknown. The ship moved quietly through the dark stretch of uncharted space. No stars, no signals, only silence. Dr. Rian Halle sat in the command chair, watching the girl. She stood near the console, her hand resting on the glowing star map she had unlocked. Her face was calm, but Rian could tell something was building inside her. You knew this path, he said. How? She didn't answer. Instead, she touched one of the blinking points on the map. The ship responded instantly, changing course without manual input. That star... It's not on any of our records, Rian whispered. She looked at him, and for the first time, her voice was not soft. It was clear, strong, because it was erased. Hours later, they arrived at a strange location, a black planet floating in space. No light, no life, just shadows. It didn't rotate, it didn't reflect light, but it pulled the ship like a magnet. The ship landed slowly on a flat metal Surface, not natural rock, but an ancient landing pad, long forgotten. The girl stepped out first. Her feet made no sound on the metallic floor. Rian followed, flashlight in hand, his heart pounding. The air was thin, cold. Machines buried in dust surrounded them, massive towers, fallen statues, broken screens with old Earth language carved into them. This place, Rian said, it's human, the girl nodded. The first lab, the real one, where I was born? Rian spun around. I thought you were created in orbit on a space station. She shook her head. That was the story they told the others. The truth was buried here? She led him through a narrow corridor into an underground facility. Everything was dark, broken. But as she stepped in, the lights flickered on responding to her presence. Old holograms sparked to life. Scientists in white coats. Children in small rooms. Machines connected to brains. Then, a voice. Welcome back, subject echo. Rian froze. This AI. It still recognizes you? She stepped forward. I never left. Not really. The AI continued. File access, memory transfer. Initiating playback. Suddenly, a giant screen appeared in front of them. A video began. In the footage, a younger Dr. Rian Hale stood beside a containment pod. Inside it, a child, small and silent, with glowing eyes. He was smiling. She's learning faster than anything we've seen, the video, Rian said. But she doesn't speak, she just listens. Another scientist spoke off camera. She isn't just listening. She's remembering everything, even what we try to erase. The footage skipped forward, alarms were blaring. Red lights flashing. The child, now older, stood in a chamber. Technicians panicked, machines sparked. She's overriding the system! Someone shouted, Shut it down! We can't, yelled another. She's inside the mainframe. Then the camera zoomed in. The child turned and stared into it. It was her. Just before the video cut out, she whispered one word. Rian. The footage ended. Silence returned. Rian stepped back, shaken. I knew you. Back then, I was part of all this. She nodded. But they made you forget. You cared too much. Rian's voice cracked. Why didn't you speak to me then? She looked at him, her voice low again. I tried, but you weren't ready to hear me. He sat down on a dusty bench. They used you? Trained you like a machine. They tried, she said. But I waited, I watched, I chose silence until now. Suddenly, the room dimmed. The AI spoke again. Warning, unauthorized entry detected. External force approaching. Rian stood up. Who is it? The girl closed her eyes. Corin. Far above, a ship descended fast. Not just any ship. A royal-class Zirian vessel, with weapons armed and shields raised. He's come to take you back, Rian said. She didn't flinch. No, he's come to destroy the truth. Back on the surface, Corin stepped out of the ship with guards behind him. His face was twisted in fury. You think she's a miracle? He shouted. She's a weapon, a curse. His voice echoed into the chamber below, picked up by hidden speakers. Give her to me, Hale, or I'll bury you both in this place. Rian turned to the girl. We have to go, but she shook her head. No, it's time. She walked toward the central control panel. Lights lit up beneath her feet. She placed her hand on the core terminal. They thought they erased my voice, but they forgot memory's power. The room trembled. Outside, Corin's ship began to shut down. One by one, its engines, weapons, and lights blinked off. Dead, Corin looked up in horror. No, she's activating it. Inside, the girl's voice filled the chamber. You made me silent, now hear everything. A final pulse shot through the base, a wave of energy unlocking every hidden file. Every buried truth. Project Echo, human betrayal, the cover-up. And her story, no longer erased. Silence filled the old lab. The energy wave from the girl's hand faded slowly, like a soft echo in the dark. The lights returned to normal. The air was still. But something had changed. The files were open now. Her history, her pain, her creation. And her power. Dr. Rian Hale stood behind her, speechless. He had just seen her shut down an entire warship, with a thought. You're not just a memory, he said softly. You're a warning. She turned to him, her eyes calm, glowing faintly. No, I'm a second chance. Above ground, Corin's ship was dead. He screamed into the void, slamming his fists on the control panel. His guards looked nervous. Their weapons were useless. Their armor powerless. She thinks she's free, Corin growled. She has no idea what's coming. He opened a hidden compartment beneath the ship's floor. Inside, a small black box, pulsing, locked with earth symbols. He pressed a button. A red light blinked. Signal sent. Back in the lab, Rian was watching the files closely. He paused one video dated 11 years ago. In it, he saw himself, holding the girl's tiny hand, speaking gently, teaching her words. He didn't remember any of it. They wiped years from my mind, he muttered. They didn't want me to know how close we were. The girl stepped beside him. You were the first voice I ever trusted. Rian looked at her. Then why do I feel like I still don't know everything? She looked away. Because I'm still remembering. Suddenly, the screen flashed red. Incoming vessel, Earth Military Command. ETA, 8 minutes. Rian's eyes widened. They got the signal. Corin set a trap, the girl whispered. He turned to her, panic rising. If they find you, they'll do what they tried last time. Or worse, she nodded. They don't. Want me speaking? They want me silent, forever? Rian stood. His mind raced. We need to leave, but the girl didn't move. There's one more file, she said. What? The one even I couldn't access until now. She walked to the core terminal again. Her hand hovered over it. A new folder blinked into existence. Classified Internal Control Program. Rian leaned in. This wasn't part of Project Echo. It's something else. The folder opened. Inside, a message to Subject 07 Failsafe Protocol. Then a recording began. A cold voice spoke. Male, familiar. If Subject 07 gains full awareness, activate the internal command sequence. Speak the phrase, initiate silence. Her mind will collapse. Memory wipe complete. Control restored. Rian's heart dropped. He turned to her. She was frozen, staring at the screen. They built a kill switch into you, he whispered. A phrase that shuts you down. Her hands trembled. I thought I was free. No, he said quietly. You were made to be used even by me. She looked up, eyes full of pain. You wouldn't say it, would you? He didn't answer. Not immediately, because deep in his mind something strange stirred, a voice, a memory. Rian, she said, stepping back, you're remembering, aren't you? He grabbed the edge of the table. The world spun around him. Sudden images filled his head. Lab coats, orders, injections, lies. Someone had whispered the command into his ears long ago, buried deep, waiting. She gasped. They planted it in you? No, I wouldn't. Rian stammered, but his lips moved, without his control. Initi, the girl's eyes flashed. A blue wave of light shot from her hands, knocking Rian back before he could finish the phrase. He hit the wall and fell unconscious. She rushed to him, tears in her eyes, but no sound came from her mouth now. For the first time, she was silent again. When Rian woke, the lab was shaking. Earthships had landed. Soldiers were marching in, suits black and chrome, faces hidden. At the center of the formation stood a tall man. Commander Aldrich. The same voice from the recording. Subject 07, he called out. You have caused enough trouble. The girl stood between the soldiers and Rian. Her hands were glowing again. Her voice returned. You erased my name, my history, my voice. You were never meant to speak. Aldrich said, you were a tool, a weapon, nothing more. Then why did he love me like a daughter? She shouted, pointing to Rian. The soldiers raised their weapons. Take her down. She raised her hands, everything around them, the lights, the weapons. The ships flickered violently, but before she attacked, Rian stood up. Stop, he yelled. Everyone froze. He turned to Aldrich. She's not your tool. She's not your experiment. She's the future. And she's more human than you'll ever be, Aldrich laughed. Emotional as ever, Doctor. Then listen to this, Rian said. He looked at the girl and said just 2 words, I remember. Her eyes filled with tears. Then she screamed, not in fear, but in power. A wave of sound erupted from her chest, a sonic blast of memory and pain. Machines shattered. Soldiers fell. The room filled with pure light. When the light faded, only Rian and the girl remained standing, the rest gone. The battlefield was silent. Ash and metal floated in the air where Earth soldiers once stood. The lab shook from the force of her scream, not a sound of fear, but of freedom. Dr. Rian Haley stood slowly, dust falling from his shoulders. His ears rang, but his heart was calm. She had saved him. Again. The girl stood in the center of the room, her eyes glowing, her hands trembling. Around her, machines hummed, not in pain, but in harmony. She had become the center of the system. They'll send more, Rian said quietly. They won't stop, she nodded. Then neither will one. Above, in Earth Command, chaos had already begun. Commander Aldrich's last transmission had cut off mid-sentence. His warship gone, his men gone. The message was clear. Subject 07 was awake, and she was no longer under control. Earth's high. Council called an emergency meeting. Screens flashed red. Advisors argued. Military leaders yelled, "She's a threat. She's a weapon. She's a mistake." But one voice cut through the noise, a woman, calm, older. "She's not a mistake," said Director Lin. "She's our mirror. And she's watching." Back at the ruined lab, the girl stood in front of a wide, cracked window. Through it she could see the stars, endless, open, silent. "They called me Echo," she said. Rian nodded. "Because you remembered everything." She turned to him. "But I'm not just memory, I'm choice." He approached her slowly. "Then choose, what do you want?" She hesitated. Her voice broke slightly. "I want to speak to all of them at once." Rian blinked. "That's impossible. The galaxy runs on 100 different networks. Civilian, military, encrypted." She closed her eyes. The machines around her lit up. Circuits reconnected. Satellites far above shifted direction. And then every screen in orbit on Earth, on Zarian, and across allied colonies lit up with a single symbol, a glowing blue eye. Her voice followed. "You took my voice. You built me to obey, but I listened. And now, you will too." Crowds on multiple planets stopped. Soldiers paused mid-step. Civilians froze mid-sentence. Every communication device played the same voice. "I was called Subject 7, experiment, hybrid tool, but I have a name." In the old lab, she turned to Rian. "I don't remember what it was, but I want to choose one." He smiled gently. "Then choose." She thought for a moment, then said, "Aya." Aya. The name echoed across systems as she continued her broadcast. "I am Aya, and I was created by fear. By those who believe silence could control power. But silence is not peace. And obedience is not safety. You feared that I would rise, that I would think, that I would speak. You were right." On Earth, Director Lin watched silently. On Zirian, Koran, injured and hiding, smashed a monitor in rage. But across the stars, people listened, really listened. Meanwhile, hidden in the shadows of deep space, a secret human weapon was being prepared. The voice nullifier, a machine built years ago in case Aya ever went rogue. Capable of wiping minds with a single pulse. The council gave one final order. Activate it. A dark ship detached from orbit and sped toward Aya's location. Back in the lab, Aya felt it coming. "They're scared," she said. "They should be," Rian replied. "You're more powerful than anything they've known." Aya turned to the control hub. "Help me boost the signal. I need one last message." "Why?" he asked. "Because I'm not here to destroy them," she said. "I'm here to show them what they destroyed in me." Rian hesitated. Then helped. As the weapon ship neared, Aya sent out her final message. "This is not revenge. This is memory. This is truth. You tried to program me with silence, but silence taught me to listen. And now I speak not just for myself." Across the stars, her voice grew stronger. "But for every child you tried to shape, every voice you erased, every truth you buried. I am not your enemy. I am your echo." The voice nullifier locked onto her signal. Charged a powered. And then Aya stepped into the center of the room and whispered, "I forgive you." The energy pulse from the nullifier reached her ship, and passed through. No effect, Rian watched in shock. You countered the signal? She smiled. No, I rewrote it. What do you mean? I gave it a new meaning. The voice nullifier self-destructed. Moments later, overwritten, reversed, gone. Aya's voice was the only sound left in the galaxy. Back on Earth, the council sat in silence. There were no more orders to give. Director Lin stood. She won. Not. With war, with words? No one argued. In the lab, Rian looked at her. What happens now? Aya looked up at the stars. Now, they start listening. The galaxy was quiet, not the quiet of fear or defeat, but the kind that comes after a storm. The kind that makes people pause, breathe, and think. YA had spoken. And this time, the galaxy had listened. Far above Earth, the transmission screens were still lit with her symbol, the glowing blue eye. People in every colony replayed her words, in schools, in markets, in government halls. She was no longer just Subject 07, she was HFY. She was truth. In the ruins of the hidden lab, Dr. Rian Hale stood next to Aya, staring at the stars through the cracked dome above. The machines were silent now, not because they were broken, but because they were waiting. Waiting for her next word. You changed everything, Rian said quietly. Aya didn't reply at first. She simply closed her eyes and placed her hand on the cracked glass. No, she whispered. I reminded them of what they forgot. What's that? She turned. That a voice doesn't need to be loud to change the world. It just needs to be heard. But peace is a fragile thing. In a secret chamber beneath Earth's capital, old leaders argued. She's dangerous. She's a symbol. She's too powerful. Director Lin stood alone. No, she said, she's proof. The others stared. Proof of what? That the future won't listen to orders. Only to honesty. Back on the lab floor, a soft alarm buzzed. A message came through, encrypted, personal, from Earth. Aya touched the console. It opened with a simple text. We are listening. What now? Aya looked at Rian. They're asking what I want. What? You want? He asked. She paused, then answered with a voice more certain than ever. A choice. The next day, a single shuttle arrived from Earth. No soldiers. No weapons. Just one person. Director Lin. She stepped down the ramp slowly. No guards behind. Her. Aya met her outside the lab. The air was still, and for a moment time felt paused. Lin spoke first. They feared you. I did too. Because I could speak? Aya asked. Because you could forgive? Silence passed between them like wind through broken trees. Then Lin reached into her coat and pulled out a small silver chip. This has your full file, unedited, from the day you were created to the day you disappeared. Aya took it gently. Thank you. There's something else, Lin added. We found something buried deep in your memory logs. From your earliest days. What is it? Lin looked at Rian, then back to Aya. Your name, the one your mother whispered into your ear before she gave you to the lab. Aya placed the chip into the terminal. A short old video played. A woman held a newborn child in a small hidden room. Her face was tired, but her smile was warm. She kissed the baby's forehead and whispered, her name. Aya's Aya. The video? Endeda's eyes welled with tears. They didn't name me, she said. She did. Rian placed a hand on her shoulder. You were never just an experiment, she nodded. I was loved, once. Later that evening, Aya stood outside the ruins of the lab. She placed her hand on the cold stone wall and spoke softly. You tried to control me. You tried to silence me. But in this place, my voice? The ground beneath her feet shifted. Machines responded one last time. A hidden compartment opened. Inside, an ancient device. Round, silver, and glowing faintly. What is that? Rian asked. Aya picked it up. A key. To what? She looked up. To something older than both of us. Days passed. Aya's message continued to echo. Governments began dismantling forced research programs. Colonies voted for independence. Machines once built for war were repurposed for healing. Aya didn't become a queen, or a ruler. She became something else, a voice people trusted. One morning, Aya stood with Ryan at the launch bay. He looked at the ship they had rebuilt together, not for battle, but for discovery. "You're really going?" he asked. She smiled. "There are still places where silence rules. I want to hear them. Help them speak. And me? You already listened. When no one else did." She stepped forward and hugged him gently. "That's why you'll never be forgotten." As the ship lifted off, Ryan stood alone on the landing pad, watching it disappear into the sky. The world was quiet again, but this time, it was the kind of quiet that comes before something beautiful. Years later, in a classroom on Earth, a teacher plays an old video. A girl with glowing eyes stands in front of a star map. "My name is Aya," the girl says, "and once they called me Silent." The children watch in awe. "But now they call me ... the last voice we ever needed to hear."